Woohoo! What's going on, everyone? This is Steve Larson, and you're listening to Secret MLM Hacks Radio. So here's the real mystery. How do real MLMers like us, who didn't cheat and only bug family members and friends, who want to grow a profitable home business, how do we recruit A players into our downlines and create extra incomes, yet still have plenty of time for the rest of our lives? That's the blaring question, and this podcast will give you the answer. My name is Steve Larson, and welcome to Secret MLM Hacks Radio. All right, hope you guys don't mind the energy. I think life's too short to be boring. So, hey, now, one of the things that I had a hard time with when I first started MLM, one of the reasons why I didn't want to join an MLM was because I had this belief that I needed to be fantastic at speaking, and I needed to basically be somewhat of a slick salesman. I'm assuming you've had that feeling before. You've had that that belief before, and it's kind of this facade that I feel like Hollywood has much to blame for, where you got to be the guy who comes in the suit, and you got starch in your shirt, and you sit down, and you're doing the deal, and you kind of go back and forth, and you haggle a little bit, and you're wearing sunglasses, of course, because that's the cool thing to do, right? And you're maybe in a really nice restaurant, and you don't even look at the waitress as she comes up, and you just say the usual. You know what I mean? You guys know the facade, right? It's this business thing. It's this whole thing that Forbes and business, and Us Weekly, even, all these different pop culture things create about what it means to be successful inside of MLM. And I totally had that, and successful in business in general. And I definitely had that. I believed that I needed to be a great salesman. I believed that I needed to be a slick speaker, that there were a few lines that would mind control somebody into joining my MLM, right? That there were a few things that would make someone want to come to me and say, "Please take my money, Steven. I want to be a part of your downline. I will do anything. I'll bend over backwards. Would you like, what food can I go get? You know what I mean?" And they would grovel, and they would come and that's often how movies and our pop culture portray someone who's successful in business. And I will tell you that I have made more money by being vulnerable, more money by highlighting my differences rather than my strengths. And I've made far more money being unpolished rather than polished. If I'm just myself and if I just do me, right, and I just do me, then it attracts more people to me than if I'm trying to go out and try and be all polished and everything. There's a reason why my podcast cover is a picture of me with a wrecking ball, which I should probably talk about that sometime, why I did that. A ball and chain and all these weapons and swords and knives at my back and stuff like that. And one of them's downline, one of them's upline. And I'll tell you guys that story sometime soon about why that is, why I said it that way. But I've made more money doing things that way and just being myself and being myself loudly rather than being polished than anything else. And so I decided, you know what, I really want to be a good salesman. And I thought what that meant was that I needed, like I said, I had to be a good speaker. And so what I did is I decided I was going to go do door-to-door sales. And, I saw Robert Kiyosaki was in the military. I joined the military. It sounds crazy, but one of the reasons I wanted to join the Army is because I saw all the other successful people went into the Army, and were from a military background. I was like, cool, I'm going to go develop my discipline in that area. And what other uncomfortable thing can I go do? Cool, door-to-door sales. I explicitly did door-to-door sales because I knew it would suck and I would learn sales in the process, and I went and I was a telemarketer, and I was like, how can I get told no to repeatedly over and over again? Now, I want to tell you guys, I actually don't think you need to go through all that kind of crap and in order to be successful with it. And honestly, I kind of wish that I didn't, because it's a little bit of a waste of time. The way that I do it now is completely different. But I learned a lot of cool things in doing so. I remember I was selling pest control. I sold pest control. I sold security systems. When I was doing telemarketing, I was selling software to other businesses. It was B2B, and just really interesting, kind of cool sales tactics. What's funny is that I'm really not that good of a salesman, but I'm good at marketing. And I never realized that there was a difference for a long time. There's a huge difference between marketing and sales. And what I needed to get good at was marketing. But I thought that was the same thing as sales. And so I was going after the wrong thing, and I just never realized that. And so I remember I was going door to door, and it was the hot summer sun was beating down on me, and I was going at a ferocious pace. It was my first week out on doing door to door sales, selling pest control. And I was like, good, it's hot. Like, make it hard, coach. Like that was my mentality. And I was running door to door because I just wanted to be successful so badly. I literally ran every door to door, pretty much every day. And I would run, person to person, and I would just deliver the message. I really didn't know that much about the product. I knew that it was good and I knew that it worked. And that was pretty much it. And I knew that it was safe. It was pest control. And there were some organic aspects to the one that I was selling. And what was really funny is that I kept my blinders on. I didn't look at anybody else. And in no time, I was the number 2 first year salesman. The number 1 guy had been out there like 6 weeks prior to me, and he came out way before I did, and it was really hard for me to catch up. But for the first half of the summer, I was the number 2 guy. I was killing it, and I was making lots of money each day, and we were selling, there was lots of bugs all over the place. We were selling lots of pest control, and life was good, and I was really, really excited. And what was funny is that all of a sudden I started asking questions like, well, what really is made up of our product? What really, how do you actually apply this? What's the name of this chemical? How do you actually put it on the house? Or how do you actually, and I started learning. I was like, what kind of bug does that repel? How come we got to do 2 treatments back to back? How come we got to do this? And I started learning about the product, and I started learning what I was selling. And you know what's funny? My sales plummeted. I mean hard, very, very hard. And I was like, what the heck? I know more than everybody else about this stuff. I've really given myself to learning and understanding what we're selling so I can serve better on the doors. And that's not how it worked. And I started talking too much. I started barfing all over people. I'd come out and they'd say, hey, is this good for my kids? And I'd be like, yes, it's okay for your kids, and blah, 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 blah. And I would just come out, barf all over them. And I'd go, here's all this stuff, and here's why, and here's the name of the chemical, and here's how long it lasts, and you could lick it after so long. And, and I started going through all this stuff, and it was like a 5-minute answer to their one question. And then they'd come up and they'd say, okay, it's a little bit weird. And I'd say, hey, come over here and I'll show you something on the side of the house. So I show them something on the side of the house, and I'd be pointing out what's going on in the grass or something like that. And they'd ask the next question. Well, does it get this kind of spider? And I'd go, blah, 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 and I'd barf all over them. It gets rid of this kind of spider for this long, doesn't get the eggs. You got to do 2 egg cycles. This. Tons of stuff. Another 5-minute answer to their question. Right, and pretty sure I'm sure people started seeing the pattern, and those who were maybe more thick didn't, and they'd go and ask a third question, and the same thing, blah, and I'd barf all over them, and I'd say all these really technical terms, and I'd use all this vocabulary that made me sound smart, made me feel like I knew what the product was, and scratched my own back, but it talked me out of the sale. They always said no, and I went from selling 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 in a day to like 2 a week. I mean, it's not like they just went down a little bit. My sales all but stopped halfway through the summer. And I remember the guy in charge of the company came and he asked me, he's like, dude, what's going on, man? Like, you are our pinnacle poster child, man. We're blasting you out to the rest of the company, showing them, a good example, what it looks like. So like, what's going on? And I was like, I have no idea. I have no idea what's going on. I tell them what it is. I tell them this stuff. I tell them exactly what it is, what the product is. I tell them how it works. I tell them, I'm better right now in knowing the product than I ever have been. And it wasn't until like 2 or 3 years later that I realized why my sales dropped. And I went home really frustrated and at why it happened. And it's something that happens in MLMs very, very frequently, so frequently. And what ends up happening is somebody comes up and they get interested in MLM or the product or something, right? They get interested in anything in general. And what happens when you pick up a hobby, right? You learn about the hobby. You learn about I like to shoot. I really like to shoot. I love music. Huge music fanatic. I'm a music fanatic. I was a concert junkie for years. And and I know the names of the singers, and I know the type of drums. I played drums for 6 years. I played piano for 8 years. I sang in a band. And I'm really into the techno babble of music. I know all this stuff, and my wife looks at me. She's like, I don't even know what you just said. That makes no sense to me. What the heck? And what ends up happening is I go out And when somebody says, "Hey, do you like Audio Slave, or Incubus or Muse, or do you like this person or this person?" And I know about that band, and so I would just like barf all over them. Yes, blah blah blah. Singer name, brand of their drums. Did you hear that sweet staccato in their song? Did you hear the vibratos inside? Did you hear blah 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 blah? And I start saying all this technobabble stuff, and the guy kind of just backs away, like, okay, dude, all right, see ya, bye. And I techno-babbled my way out of sales like crazy when I was doing door-to-door sales, and I did it even more so when I first joined MLM. And that's the exact same thing that happens with most MLMers, is they go learn about the MLM. They go figure out stuff about the MLM. They learn about it. They figure out what's going on. And the first person they see, or they go to the mall, they do a home meeting, hotel meeting, or phone meeting, whatever it is, they go see the next person and they just barf all over them. And it's all technobabble. It's all this stuff and all this crap that the other person has no idea what you're saying. They have no idea what you're saying. And it just confuses them to death. And they come back out and they go, okay, I don't really know what that person said, but all I know is I don't like it, and I'm going to walk away. You could have been handing me $1 million, and I don't want to be near you. You know what I mean? And they say no. Here's what happens. Guys, I'm a huge fanatic of a man named Russell Brunson. He just came out with a book called Expert Secrets, and what it does is it teaches you how to sell without being salesy. It teaches you how to deliver a message, how to put together a product and an offer, how to put together the sales and marketing of something. And it teaches you how to put that stuff together. And he has in there what's called the Epiphany Bridge. And so what I have to do is I have to go back. Now, how do I actually convey my MLM in a way that is received by the other person? What do I do? How do I actually do that? The way that I do it is I need to tell story. Story is what causes belief. Beliefs are what drive everything in our life, right? Whether or not they're real beliefs. Sometimes we have beliefs that are false. Sometimes we have beliefs that are true. Whatever it is, there's an experience behind, that belief that made that belief what it is. And every belief we have is based on some kind of story that's running inside of our heads. If I want to change my output, all I got to do is change the story that's going on inside my head. That's from Tony Robbins. Switch the story that I tell myself in my head, I will literally have a different life. Anyway, huge fan of Tony Robbins as well. But what I have to do is I have to tell a story. Now, what I do is I go back. Now, if you guys listen to my first episode of this podcast, what was I doing? It was on purpose. I was telling you my story of how I got into MLM. And by telling you the story, I tried to help get you in the state that I was in, the sheer excitement, all the pieces and all the elements of what it took, going through that story. I got you into that same state. I described the environment. I did that on this podcast. The sun was beating down on me. I was running door to door because I had this huge desire to prove to myself I could do it, right? I'm getting you in the same state that I was in while I was experiencing it. And what happens? You start to have these little epiphanies along with me. Oh, you know what? Yeah, that makes sense. Why wouldn't you learn about the product so that you could be better? And you have the realization. I didn't come out and tell you, right? I got you in the same state, and I came out and I helped you realize why. There's a story that I had to tell to help you accept that new belief. Does that make sense? It's the same thing. If you want to be really good at conveying your MLM or your product to anybody else, what you need to do is think back. Ask yourself, why are you in it? What's the story? How come you got in it? How come you went and you actually decided to join the MLM? What is it for you? And it might be about money, some extra income. It might be about, trying to help some other people. It might be about spreading a message. Whatever it is, go back and tell what Russell Brunson calls the origin story. It's your origin story. It's how you originally got into the thing that you are doing. Go way back, dig deep, and think, how do I actually convey to this person the story? And how can I get them in the same state that I was in when I was experiencing it? Have you ever got out of a movie before, or something really crazy happened, and you run up to your friend and you say, "Hey, what's going on, man? Like, this crazy thing happened. Oh, it's nuts." And they look at you and they go, "Huh." And you're like, "Well, that's not the reaction I was thinking. Like, you should have gone nuts. Like I was going nuts." And then at the end, you eventually say something like, oh, I guess he had to be there. Well, what happened? You technobabbled them. They were in the same state that you were in going through it. They were in a different state. And so emotionally, they're in a different emotional and mental state, so they couldn't accept the story that was going through there. So you go through and you paint the picture and you go through. And what's funny is I might as well come out, if I didn't want to actually get you guys in the same state, most people tell stories like this. Hey, I did door-to-door sales and I did really well at first and I did really bad and I couldn't figure out why. And it's because I realized that I was saying too much technobabble and not enough story. Like I could have wrapped the whole podcast up in like one sentence if that was how I told stories, right? You got to get into the emotions of it. Help me feel what's going on there. Now, I told you I stayed up till 3 in the last podcast episode. I stayed up till 3 a.m. I wanted to feel like I was providing. I wanted to feel like a man. I wanted to feel like I was, providing for my new bride. You know what I mean? And that origin story is very, very powerful if I can help you get into the same state that I was in and realize it. And so that's how you create belief. And when you have belief in a product, you don't really have to sell. That's the whole key. Guys, the Epiphany Bridge is the key to sales without being salesy. Does that make sense? It's the whole key to this entire thing. So anyways, I've been going for 15 minutes here, but I just wanted to point that out, that if you want to, you don't need to be a slick salesman, but you do need to learn how to tell stories. You need to go and you need to learn how to tell stories. Seth Godin, one of the best marketers out there, has got a great book called All Marketers Tell Stories. And all marketing is I believe it was, I think it was Frank. No, it wasn't Frank Kern. I think it was Dan Kennedy. Oh gosh, I can't remember who. Actually, I think it was Perry Belcher. Perry Belcher said that the only, gosh, I'm so sorry if I'm misquoting, but he said the only job of marketing is to educate and to innovate, all marketing is education, and the only responsibilities that an entrepreneur has is to market and to innovate. That's it. And marketing is just telling stories and changing belief patterns. You're just educating through stories. That's all it is. And so think to yourself, the last person that I spoke to, the last person that I walked up to, how did I approach them? Was it all about me just technobabble crapping just going nuts all over them and saying, hey, it's got this and it's got this and it's got this and it's got this. And they kind of back up to like, oh, okay. What's the story though? And if you can do that, you educate through story. You are now officially marketing. You're no longer prospecting, your marketing. And I want to congratulate those of you who take that step and make that bridge. Because as you guys know, prospecting pushes, marketing pulls. Have you ever chased a rabbit before and tried to catch it? It's ridiculous. It's so hard. That's like prospecting. On foot, like running and chasing a rabbit or a fox or something, really, really fast, or a little rodent or a squirrel. It's almost near impossible to do that. That's prospecting. Marketing is marketing polls, right? Marketing is putting bait out there and waiting for we used to put little peanut butter, things out there, and we watched the squirrels go out into the yard, and they'd go up and they'd start eating a little peanut butter ball and stuff like that. That's that's marketing, right? Marketing polls. Marketing makes them come to you. And so a lot of you guys just need to switch your bait. So you get the right kind of person, and you got to switch up the story so that when they're there, they actually want to change their beliefs, so they don't have any more false beliefs, and they see why your product is important, and they understand why, and you create belief on why they should join the MLM, and that will change everything. And so what I started doing is I started figuring out how I can convey story over and over and over through automated systems, and that's what I'm excited to share with you over the course of this podcast as I keep recording these. So anyways, guys, thank you so much. If you guys want, you can go get the MLM Masters Pack. It's completely free, but what it will do is dive deeper onto the things that I'm sharing with you right here. I recommend you listen to it with your downline because it'll educate them. I don't mention my MLM in it at all, so there's not any kind of pressure at all. Just so you know, this is completely just as a help. I just want to be able to help right now because I feel like the MLM industry as a whole stereotypically is very, very broken as far as how we actually get people into them. And so I want to help change that, and it's part of the mission of this podcast. So anyway, guys, thanks so much. Go to secret MLMhacksradio.com to download that, and I'll see you guys in the next episode. Hey, thanks for listening. Please remember to subscribe and leave feedback. Would you like me to teach your own downline 5 simple MLM recruiting tips for free? If so, go download your free MLM Masters Pack by subscribing to this podcast at secretmlmhacksradio.com.